Okay. All right, so I'm going to open the list of teams right now, and I guess we'll start from top to down. I have a folder right here. And this is what I have so far. So if you're part of a team and you don't see your number here, yeah, I'm not sure if I can make the text bigger. So if you don't see the number there, let's first take a look at the Excel. So yeah, we see team one. Yeah, I have a presentation for team one. So I guess let's start with you. Why not? Do you already know who wants to do the short presentation?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Okay, cool. Let's open up Coffee tab.
Okay.
Right. Yep.
Hello, everyone. My name is Andrei Rarenko, and me and my partners are Niku Savin and Druce Nicolae, are working on the Coffee tab application. Okay, so the slide you see is our current logo. It's just a working logo. Okay, so yeah, the next slide. Okay, so I'll start by telling you what Coffee tab is not. Coffee tab is not a coffee table shop. Coffee tab is not a coffee shop. Coffee tab is not a coffee drinks recipe application. What Coffee tab is what's true about Coffee tab is that we the partners are we love coffee. And also, Coffee tab is a Google Chrome extension that makes your day special with a personal news feed, weather tracking software, and a clean to-do list. You'll make your day as gracious as a cup of coffee in just one page. Yeah, that's all.
And yeah, really nice. Yeah, we already discussed about the idea. I think you guys have a really good idea. It's achievable, and yeah, with the skills that you've gathered here, I think it's really cool. So, if anyone has any question for team one, if not, yeah.
Yeah, I would if possible. So about the business stuff. So do you plan on using it for free for a limited time, or?
Yeah, it will be.
I mean, it's really nice. So I would definitely be interested in trying it. That's why I'm.
If you love coffee, it's free then.
Nice.
Cool. You can always slap some ads and make some money, right? But just good enough for a coffee, not more than that. All right, cool. Then okay, so this your teammates here. They're correct, yes?
Yeah. Niku Savin and Druce Nicolae.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah, this is important because in the end, we're going to use this Excel to deliver some certificates and so. Because some people left during the course, some people were just like present, and that's it. So basically, if you're part of a team and you did the project, and there's a project which is working, like it's fine, of course, if some things are still bugging and so. But if you work on a project and you're here, then we'll just use this list to send you the certificate and so. But if for some reason you did not manage to be part of a team, or you just didn't manage to work on the project and so, you're going to have to contact us, and then we look individual by individual, like if you at least have some assignments that you worked on and you can show, or like anything. Pretty much you just have to prove that you kind of like have the basic level of whatever we have been learning here in the past weeks or months or so. Okay, so that's team one. The next one here, I don't think I have any slide, but Valeria, we just had a call today, and she mentioned that she's going to work on a tic-tac-toe game. Are you part of the call or not? Do you want to say anything about what you're going to do, or? Oh. Okay. And then we'll get to this later. All right. Here, how do I allow Google Meet to use mic? Oh, you had that problem before. Honestly, I have no idea. For me, it just worked. Yeah. Yeah, okay. All right. Jiku Rado is part of this call or not? I don't see your name here. Something regarding privacy. Is it an issue that I'm sharing names or just asking? Okay. Privacy.
It was about the microphone. If you're on Mac, it's not going to work on Google Meet.
Okay. On Mac and it works. Well, we'll get there, I guess. Okay, so team 6, no one there. Let's get to team 7. Who wants to present here? What's the plan?
Can you hear me, first of all?
Yes.
Okay, I'll go ahead to present it. And we'll talk about smart agriculture. Yes, okay. We as a team, I am with opposed to Daniel. Gloria, I cannot pronounce the second name, so yeah, and you're at Delov. And we are going to talk about culture and crop production, crop efficiency. To be more precisely, our website is made to create an agronomic assistant that could efficiently increase the crop production by forecasting factors of danger such as climatic events, bad history of soil temperature, and stuff like that. Our product is a virtual assistant which guides the user to the process of crop growing, from planting the seed to collect the product and the time when he should do this. In the third slide is just how we are going to do it. Like my illustration, we are going to collect the data about the climate, the quality of the soil, the meteorological data, the historical dependencies, and we are trying to compute a formula that will give the user the prediction about the soil, what he can plant and what he cannot grow in that area. And about the business plan, because I forgot to write, it's like a subscription on 6 months. First of all, it'll be free just because we need testers, something like that. And after, it'll be a subscription on 6 months.
Well, I think we can all agree this is a crazy idea. It's really a nice one. We didn't manage. I think we didn't manage to have a call this week, but we definitely need to make a group call to discuss a bit about technology and what you want to achieve now within the course, and then later what you want to achieve if you're moving forward with the project. So yeah, in general, it's a really cool idea, and you're a team of 4, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so smart agriculture. So yeah, it'll be important that we discuss to kind of figure out if everyone knows what he or she is able to work on, and how to kind of define the models of the project and so on. But I think something is achievable here, especially if you make use of some APIs. And I know, yeah, from this group, most of the people, you're really good with coding, so.
I already have the APIs, but I'll have to implement, and that formula will be yes.
Yeah. Well, it's really nice. So just let me know after that of the lecture, or like tomorrow, whenever we can have a call next week. So it's not urgent, but it might help you a lot. Okay, we'll move on. So that will be team 10. Igor, Lungolga, Nikita Burlaka. I shall open, so that will be team 10. I have a PDF here. And there we go. Who will present?
I will be. Hi.
Nice. Hi.
So our team is from Lungolga, Nikita Burlaka, and myself. The basic idea you can see now, the valid project. So what's the main idea? Everyone can monitor his funds. Like example, from beginning, there will be 3 type of wallets: wallet Euro, USD, and NDL, Moldavian Lays. So user can like add to each of one wallet his let's say type of money, and like virtual money, and can monitor his spends, transaction, withdraws, funds, deposit, maybe transfer to parents, friends, and the idea when a user will add some quantity of money, we will add like a comment to that. So in the future, user can see which was done with that part of money. Okay, and another idea, we want to implement like a money transfer to same application, like the same wallet project. That's a little bit a crazy idea. I don't know how to implement, but we'll think about it. And and also, I think we will add the possibility to add more wallets of some more types. And if like example, user no need wallet in USD or MDL, he can delete it, and all cash what will in that wallet will be automatically transferred to another one, or maybe he will choose that wallet. And in the top of corner, user will see the total value of his funds, like total money, more what 1 million. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it looks indeed very nice, but I guess you're not planning to really connect it with like banking APIs or so, right? Like it's a budgeting app, or
yeah. That's right.
Cool. Yeah, in general, it's really nice. We also what we didn't have, it did not have the call, right? Like we didn't have the group call.
Not yet.
Yeah, so next week, whenever you're getting started with the team, just contact me. Yeah, I think it's really nice, and in general, it's also a good thing for a portfolio. A lot of software jobs are in accounting, are related to accounting and this kind of stuff. So yeah, it's absolutely a very good thing for for your portfolio.
Yeah, cool.
Okay, anyone has a question about this one? Anyone would like to use such a thing? Because I tried to use some budgeting apps, and well, when I had to do budgeting, it was really helpful. So cool. We got a message from Valeria Popov here. Sorry, I was in another meeting. So yes, it will be just a TikTok game. Yeah, all right. So if you decide to do it in a team or not, you'll just arrange a call with me if you need to. Otherwise, I think the idea is quite clear. So good luck. Will it be multiplayer? Yeah. So will it be multiplayer, Valeria? No, we shall not know that today, I guess. Okay, let's move on. Let's go to team 11. Let's open this one up. This was a quite interesting one. So let's zoom in a little bit. Right, so who's presenting here?
Yeah, I think I can start, but Mihaela and Alexandru, please feel free to join if you have anything to add. So what we plan is learning web application, a simple learning web application based on flashcards. So for example, we all have been through exams. You have to remember lots of stuff. So we'll have some sort of a flashcard. On one part of the card, you will have to write a hint or an object definition. So, for example, a term that you have to learn, finance. And on the other side of the card, you can write your own definition or your own explanation for the other side. So you will have to write these sorts of definitions for yourself, and yeah, that's basically it. You can use it from time to time. As a nice feature, we plan on also putting some sort of difficulty level. So there is this thing in literature called spaced repetition. We want based on the difficulty of the cards. So if you find them easy, they should appear less often. But if you find them difficult, then they should appear more often for you, because yeah, you will need to learn that you still have difficulty. So you will have to write both sides of the card, and yeah, that's basically it. We plan on targeting students or professionals or anybody who has to learn anything. Yeah. So Mihaela, Alexandru, if I missed anything, please feel free to add.
It's okay.
Yeah, so good.
Cool. Yeah. So we discussed yesterday also. These guys, they already have a pretty nice design in Figma, so they're really well prepared. So let's see what comes out of this.
Yep, we have Mihaela for that.
Yeah. So yeah, good luck. Yeah, just let me know if you need our help or anything. Cool. So that would be Team 11. Then yeah, Ionel, you want to tell us about your kick-ass idea?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry for the lame presentation here. So this will be a very simple website with two implementation. One will be here on the search download music will be a button where I can add the implementation that I did with the YouTube download thing search music. And the other implementation will be to predict the music genres. So I will upload it or something the file there, and in the background I will run an AI algorithm that is trying to predict the music genres. That will be all.
Nice. Cool. So yeah, we already had the discussion. So let me know if you figured out if that Java library works for you. Otherwise, if you need help, yeah, just reach out.
I will do.
Cool. Good luck with it. Let's see, anything in the chat. I bet $100 you can't beat me at tic-tac-toe. Don't bet with that guy. He's investing in Dogecoin. You are the come and get meme cards. Sounds like a challenge. Cool. All right. So people having fun here. Nice. Team 13, bug solver. That seemed like a pretty huge idea, but let's see what you have to tell us about it.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so it's a bug tracker system that helps IT teams tracking software bugs in software development projects. Basically, it will help everyone who have a new project to track their bugs. It will be a lot of tables with a lot of bugs, and they will be classified by severity. It will be it can be very, very hard, no hard, severe bug, or it but can I don't know how to say it.
Tell us maybe like how, what is it? Is it a tool? Is it a website? Like how would someone use
It is a
this?
website. It is a website like Jira. If someone
okay. So okay, this because what I understood from this one was like this detects bugs in your software.
No.
Okay.
I think it's like a management app.
Okay, then yeah, that's achievable. You're confident of doing this on your own till the end?
Yeah.
Okay, that's nice. All right. So yeah, if you need help with the technology and so, let me know. Do you want to also have a backend and a database, or just?
Yeah, I will save all my bugs in a database.
Nice. All right, then.
Thank
yeah,
you.
I wish you luck. Yeah, cool. So the thing is, we are kind of out of presentations here. anyone else who maybe I missed or wants to say anything now? No. Okay. So for the last time, I'm going to mention, if you're not part of a project team and you're intending to try to do it as soon as possible, I guess, there's still, I know there are some people, at least in the last weeks, who mentioned that they don't have a team and they would love to work in a team, but they don't know with who to work. So yeah, we can try to, just write in the group chat, I guess. Otherwise, I mentioned if like you're welcome to just join the lectures and so, but for us to give you the certificate, you'll have to either show some assignments where you use a bit of databases, a bit of front end. Otherwise we can't give that certificate. So, okay. Any questions about the project in general, like the whole organization and what to do and how to do? No?
So maybe I have a question. So maybe if other groups have started also dividing tasks, so maybe they can share how they do it or what software do they use? Do they use Trello? How do they manage that?
Yeah.
So the ones which are in teams.
We use Trello. We did something like 10 user stories and then just a basic agile sprint round. So everyone can take a user story and then put it in the doing band. And then at the end we are doing the sprint review thing. That's
an example. So indeed, Trello is really a good tool to use in groups. You can define your own lanes. You can define your own tags, add comments to any of them, add images, links, and really the tool to go, and it's free. Also, I will post some tutorial on how to use GitHub a bit more professionally in Teams, because last time I told you about GitHub was very straightforward and basic on like how just to keep your code online. Alexandru Guja, he mentioned he has a link. So yeah, I remember. So if you'll be able to share that in Slack would be great. Otherwise, I'll also look for some more links, and if they'll not explain how, like in a very simple way, maybe I'll make a video, but the internet is full on resources, how to use GitHub in Teams. All right. Okay. Any other question about the... one second. Yeah. Any other questions about the project? Because after that, we just move on to React. Okay. So meanwhile, I'll move the slides. I'll immediately create a React project because we'll need that today. Cool. All right. So a small recap from last time on React. You remember we talked about the main concepts in React, like components, props, state, GSX, lifecycle. So now we'll go a bit through them again. Maybe it became a bit more clear after you've seen how those things really work in practice. You've seen how components work. Like last time, we created a new component in a separate file, and we kind of rendered that on the screen. Props is something that we're going to learn a bit more today. I only showed you a bit about it yesterday. State variables. You've seen how those work in practice. You've seen how we are like tracking the number of clicks of a button in a variable. JSX, also something that we've seen last time. You've seen how you can put JavaScript inside the HTML syntax. So pretty much the biggest magic of React. And from the lifecycle, I think we only checked on how to run something when the component is mounted. So good enough now in the beginning. So what we're going to learn today. So last time I only showed you how single components work and like how do you place a component in a specific place. But what we did not learn yet is how do you make a dynamic list. So like in the assignments before, like if you want to do a to-do list and you want each of the elements to be manageable, deletable, movable, and whatever. So the way you were dealing it with before was that you were programmatically in JavaScript, you had like an array or an array of objects. And for each of those objects, you'd then create the HTML programmatically and kind of clean up something in the screen and then show them again. So that's how we pretty much were doing it up till now. So we'll learn how in React that is done in a much nicer way. And then you have to deal much less with the whole rendering and when things are rendered and so on. So just a very small recap on array functions. So maybe you use some of these, or maybe you just seen them in the slides. 3 array functions which you'll need for today are .map, .filter, and .reduce. So I thought this is a nice visualization to show. So .filter is the one that you maybe used most. .filter, pretty much you just give it a function, and then that function runs for each of your elements in the array, and if they pass the test, then they become part of a new array which is returned. .reduce is also a very nice one. .reduce, give me a second. 1 second. There's 2 lectures happening in this house. Okay, so .reduce, it's also a nice one where like you can create a function which takes in all the elements from an array and does something with them. And okay, so .map, it's a way in which you can apply a function to each element, and then the output of that is placed in a new array, and then you're given an array with those with the outputs. Okay, so now if you think about it in React, what we want to do is that now looking at this example, we have an array of well, in this case, strings. And we want, for each of these elements, we want to create a React component to create like an HTML, like actual visual thing, right? So by using .map, well, actually, before this, if you remember from the JS6 syntax, if you want to put some JavaScript inside the HTML, inside this JSX, you have to open these brackets and close them, right? So that's how we know that JavaScript will run here. So what we do, we start with array and we do .map. And why we do .map is because we want to return an element for each of them. And the way it works is that here, this is a function that will generate that component. So we make a variable, in this case, fruit, that we use it as a iterator, so to say. And for each of them, we have to specify what exactly are we want to output. So in this case, we're just going to create a div, and inside it, we're going to have a large text. And the text inside it is going to be this variable. So it's very straightforward. And I think it makes sense that now I'll meanwhile open Visual Studio Code because this example is about to become a bit more wild. So while I explain some stuff here, I will do npx create React app. Oh, no. npx, let's do a bit of zooming in. npx create React app lists. Okay. By the way, anyone who didn't do any kind of React since last time, anyone who is like completely lost or has some questions about what's happening here?
Does the fruits array have to be outside the function app?
Does the what?
You see the fruits, the array.
Yeah.
Does it have to be outside the app component?
No, absolutely not. In this case, I'm showing it so because this is just a constant array that we're not planning to do anything with it. It's fine to declare it outside of the array. Also, in when you're going to make a bit more advanced advanced programs, like if you have an object or a variable that has nothing to do with your rendering, right? It's simply like maybe a structure, a configuration. Ideally, you do not have it inside your component because less computation and faster rendering speed, I would say. That's usually the reasons. So for example, if you want to make a nice menu with buttons, and that menu has always the same list of elements, then you might as well declare a constant outside of your component.
Okay.
So meanwhile, this is being created. So I guess you know how this goes if you tried it. Okay. So this is a very simple one, just making a list and showing it. The next example that I have here, you'll have it in the GitHub that I send you. The next one here, what we're going to do, instead of just having an array with simple, with simple values, we have objects, and each of the objects has like two properties, name and color. So this is exactly the same example. The only difference is that here, instead of putting the variable directly, we use its property.name. So we say that in between these two tags, in between the h1 tags, we're putting the name. So that's the content. And what we do here, maybe a bit of something that I also showed last time, a bit of dynamic styling. So here you see the style, the CSS, we provided in a JSON format, in a JavaScript object format, which allows us to add dynamic variables to it. So in this case, we say that the background, like the CSS background property, will take the value of whatever this dot color is. So red, yellow, green, brown. So in this way, this is the output here on the right. So if you don't believe me, try it yourself. Okay. Any questions before I move on? Like, is it clear what's happening here?
Just one moment, please.
Yes.
So I can see here we have array of type const.
Yes.
But we can change like elements behavior. It is expected here. I can understand. Yeah.
I'm not sure if I understood you completely.
It's like I thought if we have const variables, we cannot change them.
Yeah, so that is absolutely true. The other thing is also that arrays, so also we're actually not modifying anything here, we're just displaying, right? So only thing that I'm doing here for each of the elements, I'm just taking out its value, I'm not changing it.
Yeah, it's clear now.
Yeah, so that's the first thing, but the second, important not to forget, even if the array variable is a const, I can actually modify each of the elements, because if you remember, this variable name is only a reference to all this structure. So objects and arrays, if you write them as const, you can still modify their properties. What I'm not able to do, I cannot go anywhere in my code and say fruits equals something else.
Oh,
okay?
Yeah, it's clear now.
Yeah. So same for this and that. Anyone else has a question about this example? It's really important that you understand this one, because we're about to move a bit forward. And yes, a question? Yes, I guess that was it's clear, I shall suppose. All right, so okay, so that's how you make a list. Now let's go into something a bit more interesting. How can you modify the list, and how do those updates happen, right? Meanwhile, maybe this is ready. Happy hacking, cool. So this seems to be ready, which is nice. We're going to open our app.js. npm start, because I think the examples would be more interesting if I show them how they actually run. And the problem, oh yeah, it's a folder. Okay, npm start. We're going to wait for this. Meanwhile, I'm going to clean the basic example here. Going to get rid of the stuff that we don't need. Going to save. And just to make things faster, I'm going to use the code that I already have prepared. Yeah, also, like maybe sometimes I don't mention, but everything is on the GitHub after every lecture, even if I don't put it in Slack or anything like that. Okay, this goes in a different way. I'm going to have this on my other screen, and then I'll copy things one by one. Okay, so our basic example without nothing. Come on, please work. Doesn't want to save for some reason. Interesting. Okay, I'm going to copy that array now. So we're going to say const fruits equal this. And then here we're going to do fruits.map fruit. And we're going to return a div for each of the fruits. By the way, is the code readable here, more or less? Or should I go one level higher?
A little bit of zoom would be nice.
Try like that. Okay. A bit of formatting. So we're going to just start with a basic example where I put the name of each of them. So don't forget about these brackets. Here we don't have any styling. So okay, fruit.name. Yeah, so we're not using the color or anything. So for now, we're just doing the simple one without any styling. Yeah, so if I remove any of them, yeah, it gets updated immediately. So now this is just if you want to show a simple list of elements. But if you want things to update dynamically, if you remember from last time, we spoke about state variables. So before we used state variables, which were just a string or a number. So in the same way, you can also use array values for the state variables in React. Some of the things are slightly different, but they work in the same manner. Every time there's a change in your array, these things will be re-rendered. And we'll start with a simple example where you can remove one of the elements. So we're going to come here. Just to make it clear how things are separated, I'm still going to do that styling thing a bit. We're going to give it a bit of padding. We're going to give it the background of fruit.color. Okay, so we have it, yeah. And why not a bit of margin? Okay, so design is really not my thing, as you can see. Okay, so first thing that we're going to do for it to be able to dynamically change this, we want to take all of this and put it in a state variable. So if you remember, the way you do that, you declare a name of it, and it has to be ideally a constant. And you declare like this array with two names in it, so it will be fruits. And then you have to create a function that modifies it. So usually, yeah, like a common way to call variables, you put the word set, and then fruits capitalized. And then we're going to use the use state. And we're going to give it a value here. It tells me the use state is not imported. So for that to be, in order to import it, we do it like that, import use state from React. So the compiler doesn't tell us anything now. It's all fine. Yes. Okay, yeah. Now the problem is that I have two of them called fruits, so React will always try to reuse this one, so there's nothing inside this array. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy all these elements from here, I'm going to put them here, get rid of this variable outside of it. We're going to save, and now we're back at what we had before. So the only difference now is that this is inside a state variable, so I am able to do modifications to it. But now, yeah, we have to actually do some modifications. So for that, let's make a delete button. So we're just going to make a very simple button. We're going to write delete. We can put an X inside it. So now each of them has a delete button next to them, which currently doesn't really do anything. Let's zoom in a little bit. So now we need an on-click. So the way you attach functions, I think I already showed you last time. So it's very not different from how you did it before. It's just more, yeah, I think it's in a more organized way. So we're going to say on-click equals. So the thing is, we can either declare the whole function here, right, inside here. But what normally it's a good way to do this thing in React is that you actually create a function inside the component, not inside this rendering thing. So just to save some time, I'm going to copy paste that. So what I'm going to do here, actually, just let's first take a look at the first lines. So what we want to do here is that we want that each of these buttons, we want the button, for example, this one should have a function that deletes specifically this element. So what we're going to do, we're first going to do a function that, a generic function that deletes any of the elements by just giving its ID, its position in the array. And well, you probably use this one already in JavaScript, the function called splice. You can also, use it in any kind of way that you want. Like you can even do it with for loops and so on. But yeah, it's JavaScript. So in one line, we can get rid of an element and then change the ID of each of them so that it's not a sparse array, if that makes sense. So anyways, this line simply removes an element from the array. And what we want to do now, we want to take this function and we want to run it with the ID of this, of the fruit, like ID of the element. So dot map, just like dot a lot of other functions that work with arrays, the second argument, it also appears here in my VS Code, the second argument is the index. So we don't want to only take the the object, like we don't only want to use the element, but we also want to read its index, its position in the array. So I'm just going to say I, or like index, call it, let's say I. So I will be to show you what exactly is I. I'm going to, next to the fruit name, right before it, I'm going to put I. You see, like I is pretty much its position in the array, so 0, 1, 2, 3. But now what I want to do, I want to pass this I to remove fruit. And I want that button to do, to pretty much remove that element from the list. Something that, if you try it first time, you'll be surprised that, for some reason, it doesn't happen. Quite unfortunate. And the reason why that doesn't happen is because the way React works is that you need, that's why you have, when you create a state variable, you have the variable itself, and then you have like a setter function, because React will only re-render your screen, will only make the visual modifications only when you're actually using this function. Okay, so the very first thing that you want to do, you say, okay, after I do splice, the fruits array has been modified. So pretty much what you think you would want to do is set fruits, and you would put fruits again. So you expect things would work. And so what we'll do here, we'll remove the element from fruits, and then we'll call this function because we want React to know that we did a modification to that array. And surprise, surprise, it doesn't work again. So this is a path that everyone goes through the very first time they work with the arrays in React. But don't worry, there's a reason for it. So the thing is, React doesn't only re-render the visual modifications every time you call this function, but it does two things. It first checks if you ran the function, and secondly, it checks if the new value is different from the previous one. And you might be surprised, but it is different because I did remove an element. Does anyone know why React Engine and JavaScript might not see that those variables are different? Anyone?
Maybe when it checks, it doesn't have the old value, like the value modifies also inside the...
Yeah, could be. All right. It's nearly that, actually. So the thing is, it's also related to the question of Igor, I think, about putting const to arrays. So the thing is, when you do a modification to an array, like you change one of its elements or you remove one of its elements, for JavaScript, the array is still the same one because this is just a reference to that array. So what you would have to do to actually modify it, you kind of want to make another array with all those elements, but it has to be a new array, basically. So there's multiple ways in which you can do it, but luckily there's something called the spread operator. So what we're going to do, we're not only going to give it the reference like we did now, because what we do here, we're just simply indicating, yeah, just give me back that reference of that array. And for the React engine, it just sees absolutely the same thing, is the same pointer in the memory. So what we want to do, we actually want to create a completely new array where we pretty much copy all the elements of the previous one. And this way, the React engine will say, oh, okay, this is a new array. So in the near future, this is how you'll have to deal with these things in React. And trust me, this is much faster than how things used to be before, and obviously much easier than how they used to be in vanilla JavaScript. So yeah, now just to prove you that this works, I go to any of them and actually delete the list. So yeah, if you remember from what you did in plain JavaScript and HTML, I think this looks much easier, much simpler to manage, and yeah, you don't have to, inside this function, you don't have to respecify again that you want to clear out everything inside this div, and then again for each of the new elements create an h1, a button, and put its color and so on. So I don't know what you think, but I think most people who think this is much faster, much easier than plain JavaScript. And yeah, this is why React exists. Yeah, so any questions about what's happening here?
Just a small question, please.
Yeah.
So it looks like we changed the pointer, but the name is the same. It's like we change the pointer, but keep the name, right?
Yeah, so that's indeed what happens. So this name will not change at all. This function, when you run this function, the argument of this function will be the value given to this one. So because we have the square brackets here on the left and right, this is a completely new array. But this completely new array has an iteration of exactly all the objects of this previous one. So yeah, this is how you trick JavaScript into telling that your array has been modified, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and I mean, for now, it's really fine if you just kind of learn by heart. I mean, obviously it's not ideal, but for now, you just, every time you deal with a dynamic list in React, just remember that, yeah, you have to do this extra step. So yeah, so the re-rendering would happen. Okay, so I guess we're ready to move on. Yeah, so this was the example in this slide. You'll be able to try it on your own. In the next slide, this is a quite important one. Yeah, adding elements to the list. So for that, we'll need 2 text inputs. So you're also going to learn how to do that, because last time we did not do it. We're going to learn how to read read the input of a text input. So let's see what we can do here. So just before all the rendering of this list, we're going to do an input. I think I can just make it like this. Another input. And I think I can write placeholder. Yeah, placeholder. We're going to say that this one is for the name of the fruit. Placeholder. This one will be for the color. Let's see if that runs like this. That is a lot of things on the screen. Let me close some of them. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so just two text inputs, one for the name, one for the color. And yeah, we also need a button to kind of, to give that value. So we're going to do a button, and the button is going to have the text add new fruit. Right, so we have these things right here. We're not going to do any styling for it. So what we're going to do now, what we need to do is that we want that every time. I mean, you already did this like several times already in the assignments, but you did that in pure HTML. You're going to see how much simpler this is done in React. So what we have to do, we have to create a variable for these two things. We have to read that out, put it in the array, and that has to happen when this button is being clicked. So, well, what we'll start with, very first thing that we need to do is, to make a function. Actually, no, we'll start with the state variables. So for each of the text inputs, we're going to, let's start with the name one. And we're going to give it a name. We're going to say it new fruit name. And the setter function set new fruit name. And its initial value is going to be an empty string, but ideally you want to put something in there. You want to start it as a string. And I'm going to copy paste this, and I'm going to do the same one for color. Okay, so coming back here, two things that we have to do in order to connect a text input to a state variable in React. First of all, the value, right, what's written inside here, that has to be controlled by a state variable. So what we're going to say value equals, like this, new fruit name. Save it, and what I will notice is that I'm not able to type anything here, right? Like I'm trying to type now. Well, the reason for that is because we say that the value should be this and nothing else. So whatever I write here, see that text appears here, and I'm not able to modify it. So it's only a one-way binding, so to say. Now we want to do it two-way. We want that also when the user modifies this, that variable is also modified. So in order to do it two ways, we're going to say on change, I think. Yeah, on change. And on change, we need a function. And this is something that you'll pretty much have to learn. So the value, I'm going to now just print that value, but it's e.target.value. I'm not 100% sure if it's the same in pure HTML. I think it is or not. But I'm going to open the console just to show you. So we see that every time I try to type something, only one letter changes. Again, you'll see why. But the idea is that, you need to use e.target.value. It's because this is the event that's returned back, and going through why these things are like this, I don't know. JavaScript and web is like this. So the last part to do, we have to actually connect this new value to the new fruit name. So we're going to use this function, set new fruit name, and decided we're going to place that value, save, and now whenever I type in stuff here, it appears. And whenever I need that value, wherever throughout my code I'm going to read the value of new fruit name, that is going to be well, that is going to be the value that I typed in there. I'm going to copy paste exactly the same thing for the second part, but I'm just going to call it color. That's a strange one. Is this good enough? One more? Yes, one more. Okay, so name, color, and that's it. Okay, now what we want to do is that whenever we click this button, we have to take those two and put them in the array. And then, you know, ideally that appears as a new element here in the list. We're going to make a new function. I'm going to call it onFruitAdd. And for now, I'm just going to console log the name and the color. So and we're going to attach this function to the button. So we're going to say onClick. I'm going to say, okay, onFruitAdd. So basically, we want this to run whenever I click the button. So let's take a look in the console. Go zoom in. Oh, I'm going to write some text here, type something here. And when I click, I see those two values. So now I can actually do something with those values. And what we have to do, we have to add them to the array. So this is nearly the last thing of this, of this task that we're trying to do here. We're going to say fruits.push. So I guess you remember this is a function to add an element at the end of your array. And we're going to push a new object. And name is going to be the new fruit name. And color is going to be new fruit color. And another very important user experience aspect is that when you add something, you want those fields to be cleared. So what we're going to do, we're going to set this one to an empty string, and we're going to set this one an empty string. Save, and let's delete some of them. Yeah, let's delete only some of them. And let's try to add something. So let's write cucumber. I'm not sure if I spelled that correctly. Let's say, yeah, this is going to be green. Add new fruit. There you go. It has been added. Banana. Orange, why not? So there you go. This is how you add and delete elements from a dynamic list in React. You see that things are rendered immediately when there's a change whenever this happens. Also, something strange is that, yeah, we did not have to do this again after the push operation for some reason. But yeah, any questions of what's happening here and how this works and anything? What do you think of it? Some opinions? Anyone? Do you think it's easier than in pure HTML? Oh, sorry. I think people are sending messages and I didn't see them here. Don't delete the fruits. It's stupid. Okay, so a question from Yuliana Nil. If we would have a list with 10,000 elements and we want to do 1,000 operations with it, we have to create 1,000 new array. Can you specify your question, Yulian? You're asking about if it's scalable or not.
When we were playing with the map fruit thing,
Mm-hmm.
We are creating a new array with the spread operator so it can show us. But if we want to do much more operation, we will have to create a new array again and again.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, so these things are quite optimized in JavaScript. So if you really get to 10,000 elements, but I can guarantee you that I've been using this for, like, you know, those infinite feeds. Like I once built like a sort of a meme website app, and now it's not online anymore. But the thing is, like, I would have, yeah, thousands of posts with images, text, and so on, and you'd be able to just, you know, scroll through them. And well, I can tell you it worked. Maybe it wasn't 10,000s, but it definitely got maybe into thousands. But I think if you need to really render 10,000 different things in a web page, yeah, maybe something is wrong. Maybe, yeah, like, I mean, people can't read 10,000 things at the same time. And if you, for example, want to make like a list which gives you the idea that it's infinite, you use something like called pagination, but you can actually make like a subtle pagination, like in Facebook, for example. So in Facebook, when you move up and down, it's not like your browser tries to render absolutely everything. It only tries to render what you see on the screen. So that's usually how you deal with when you have 10,000 elements. Okay, very nice. It's cool, easier than before, way easier. Agree, plus really yes about the map. Maybe some hints on how to connect this Mongo would be helpful for us. Okay, so before we connect to Mongo, we iterate through database in the same way like arrays. Yes, this is pretty much true. Yeah, indeed. So it's same JavaScript. It runs on backend. It runs on frontend. It doesn't matter. Also, you will not connect the frontend to MongoDB. Keep that in mind, please. So if you're using a database, use a Node.js application like a sort of a proxy. The Node.js application should have an API. Your frontend should use that API, and the backend, the Node.js application, does a request to the database. What you're probably trying to ask is that how would you connect this to an API? So I will show that really fast because I don't have it in the slides, and I know a lot of people need this for their group project. Let's remember a bit about the use effect. And what we discuss about use effect is that this is a function that can run when one of the state variables or more are changed, or only you can run that function only once when your component is rendered. Okay, so here we're going to just do a log so you can see the answer. We're going to say fetching data, and now we're going to use the same good old fetch. And in the fetch, you have to I also, what we're going to do here, we're going to say this is an async function. Oh, actually, before that, what's actually best to do is that you create a different function. We're going to say get data. We're going to call it like this. And we're going to say this is an asynchronous operation. We're going to do get data. And does anyone have that Bitcoin tracker URL? Because if no, I'm going to take a look. I'm going to find it right now. It was somewhere in the course lecture. One second. It was in lecture 5. No, this was objects. Yeah, there you go. So this is the link. We're going to await. I hope you all remember this. And then we have to parse this. We're going to do response.json. And we're also going to await that. And for now, we're just going to log that information just to see if we're actually even getting it. And so what these two things do, so this one will say that at the start, like when our component appears on the screen, we want to run this. And what's this? We run a function. And this is a function which does a HTTP request, gets the data back, and and then prints it on the screen. Let's save this. Refresh. And if you remember this from last time, like this API call, this connected to like this price of Bitcoin in dollars or whatever. And now let's somehow print that out somewhere. So our fruit list is going to also have a variable. I'm going to call it Bitcoin price. Zero or whatever. And that has to also be printed somewhere. So let's say here in the div, I'm going to make an H1 like this. And we're going to say the price of Bitcoin is, I guess you know what this is at this point, and we're going to put Bitcoin price. And the last thing that it has to be done is that the Bitcoin price has to be actually modified here. So just to remember, so if this is the object that we receive from the internet, let's use USD. What was it? Yeah, let's use USD. So we're going to say USD dot sell. Yeah. So Bitcoin info dot USD dot sell. This would be the current selling price of the Bitcoin, and we have to now put this value in this. So basically, this will be the new value of our state variable called Bitcoin price, and then the state variable, because it's being used here. Since last time we used API, yes, it did fall. Okay, we're going to save, and there you go. The price of Bitcoin is 39 point whatever. So for those who will use fetching in their group project, I think most of you will do that. It's really the same as in typical JavaScript. Only difference is that you have to put that function here, like inside a use effect. That is pretty much it. If you don't mind, I'm going to take. We're going to take a 5-minute break. So now it's 19:10. Let's meet at 19:15. So 19:15 in my time, basically in 10 minutes. All right. So meanwhile, you can also think of questions. So see you in a while. Hi, so I'm back. Yeah, quite a tiring day. All right, so let's see where we stopped. Does anyone have questions about the fetching, about the list in React? Is it still quite clear? All fine? Okay, let's assume yes. All right. Okay, so we've seen how we can add elements to a list, we can remove them. However, we're still missing something here, and one of the things is that sometimes what you would normally want to do in the case that your element that goes in the list, sometimes you want that element to be a bit more complex. You want to add maybe a bit more styling, a bit more stuff to it. And now if you imagine when you have an actual website with a lot of stuff, immediately this becomes quite huge. So what React offers as a solution is that you can separate this in a component and put it in a different file. So we're going to achieve exactly the same thing. But what we're going to do is that all this part is going to be a separate React component. So one of the ways to arrange your project is that you have a folder where you have components. And here is, the way you set up the folders is really up to you. I'm just showing something really good enough for small to medium projects. Sometimes you have another folder called pages. And then let's say for each of the pages, let's say you have like a home page. And then, and inside the home page, you have another folder components. And the home page for that folder has only components which are used in the home page. This one would be the place where you keep the components which are used in multiple pages. So, well, you're going to try that yourself. You're going to organize however you think it's. 1 second. Yeah, so you're going to organize that however you think it's fine for you. This is just pretty much a suggestion. So inside the components, we're going to make a new file. And let's say we're going to call it fruit.js. And to make things simpler, I'm just going to copy paste this whole thing. And I'm going to remove all its contents. First, I'm going to call this fruit. So ideally, you give it the same name to not create confusion. And you want to also export this component out of this file. And what we want this component to have, we are only going to describe, we're only going to describe exactly this. So we're going to make a generic component that takes some properties and gets rendered in a different way. And this is how we're going to, again, learn a bit about React props. So first of all, in order to use props in a component, right here, you just, put a name here, like this is the first argument that goes to your component. And ideally, you always call it props. And what we want to do, we want this component to have one of the properties, which is, well, fruit name, a name or whatever. So what we want to render here, we don't have a state variable, but we want a property. So let's say, okay, fruit name. So what does this mean? It means that wherever I'm going to import this component from this file, I can import that. For now, we're going to make this gray. So wherever I'm going to import this component, it requires a property called fruit name, and this fruit name will be rendered right here. So I'm going back here. What we're going to do, we're going to completely delete everything from here. Just going to leave a div so it doesn't crash for now. And we now have to import that component, and it's done like that. Import the name of it from, and because it's in a folder, then we have to type it like that, components, / fruit. So now I can actually use this one. And how do you import it here? It's very simple. You open the tag, and you can also just have it like a component like this. You don't necessarily have to put anything inside it. Later, you're going to learn cases where you need to do that. But for now, we're just going to, pretty much render a fruit. Let's see how it looks like. We see that there's no text in here. And why there's no text? Does anyone know why there's no text? Anyone wants to say why? Hello?
Because you didn't use the first text.
Because why?
Can you hear me?
No, I think your microphone is quite bad. Like, you can also type in the chat. All right. Okay, anyway, so the reason why there is nothing, no text being rendered there, it's because, we did not give that property from the main object. So to give values for that properties, the way you do that, you pretty much use this name that you had here. I'm gonna paste it. And what we're going to do, we're going to give it this dynamic name, the fruit.name. Coming back here. So now we see the name in there. And just to come back to exactly the same example as we had before, what we're going to do, we're going to go back to this component, and we're going to say that the background equals props dot, let's call it fruit color. And now if I come back here, now what we have to do in the main one, we also have to say fruit color equals fruit.color. And we're back exactly at the same example. Only difference is that instead of trying to fill up all of this with the HTML, what we do, we say, okay, we're going to have a separate file where we can put all the styling, all the stuff that we want regarding this list component. And then here we're just going to say, I want 10 of these or 3 of them with these properties. So this, and normally the way you do it is that whenever your component already becomes too big, ideally what you want to do, you want to separate some of the logic and put it in different files. And that's how you do that in React. Moving forward, and the last part is now that the delete functionality will not work. And the reason for that is because the delete functionality here doesn't do anything inside the component. So we need to somehow, and this is a very important aspect here of React and components, we need to somehow get information about the whole array. But this fruit, this component has no idea of this array. This is just, a way to render an element in a list. Like if you want to delete something, it has to know where does it delete that from. So one of the ways to do that in React, specifically, for example, in this case, would be to send callback function from the parent component. So we're going to say props dot, and props can be strings, they can be integers, but a prop can also be a function. So we're going to call this prop on fruit delete, and we're going to run it as a function. There we go. And here in the main, in our main object, here now we have to use that property on fruit delete. We give it a function. So just to show you how this works, so first let's do a bit of formatting here so it's a bit more clear. So this is our fruit component, our custom component. We're going to print the name of the fruit that we're trying to delete, pretty much. So fruit.name. So When I click, yeah, I have the name. So the way this works is that I said that the fruit component has a parameter called onFruitDelete, which is right here. And this component knows that at the clicking of this specific button, this function has to run. Now, the parent object in the FGS, now it knows exactly where this fruit is in the list because this is in an array. So what I can do now, do exactly what I did before on the onDelete, and I'm simply going to do again, remove fruit, because we already have this one prepared. Remove fruit, and we're going to put that I in there. Move the stuff, a bit of formatting, and now we're actually back to where we were. So ideally, when you work on your group solution, on your assignment, ideally you want exactly the same. You want to separate components, and you want your code to look kind of clean. So this is a good way. Any questions on properties and custom components? Anyone? The callback function, is it clear?
Just a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, why is React not imported?
Why React is not imported?
Yes.
Let's see. So first of all, here we import these two things from React. There's another way to import for what you can also do. I think it's React from React. I'm going to comment this one out. This has to become a string. So in some tutorials, you might see that as well. And React dot. So I'm not going to do that for all of them now, but the idea is that you can also import React as a main object, and then you can do React dot, and then you either use state, use effect, and this is nice because you see what it's possible to use from React. All these things, they're called hooks. So that's the good side. The bad side is that every time you have to write an extra word. So a better way is to
But I see with the React, then there's a comma, then the use state and the use effect. You don't have to use React.useState.
Yes, so if you import it like this, then you only use state, if you use effect and use state, you can use its name as it is. But if you import React in this way, then you have to do React.useState.
No,
yeah?
I mean when you write like in line 2 or line 1, you could just say import React, comma, then the curly braces, then use state, then the use effect.
Like this you mean?
No. Import React, then comma. Like in line 1, just put the React before the curly brace.
Like this?
Before the curly brace. Yeah, like that, but before.
Okay, React, comma, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
Sure, yeah, that's also possible, indeed. Yeah, so yeah, you use it whatever is more comfortable for you. This is what I commonly see, and this is how we use it. So that's pretty much it. It's quite clear, or yes? All right. Any other questions about components? Anyone? It's quite clear. Are you able to do this on your own after that? Okay. No answer. All right. Now, back to the slides. Let's see where we're left now. So we've seen how to do this dynamic lists. Need some practice for sure. Yeah, that's always important. Here in the slides, you'll also see pretty much the same code, and you'll use this on your own time. Now, something very interesting. We're going to learn, the slides are a bit modified, but we're going to learn a bit about graphical libraries in web in general. So graphical libraries, maybe you heard about Bootstrap, Material UI, Semantic UI, I don't know, a lot of other graphical libraries. And why these libraries exist is because some people say that the best user interface is a user interface that you are already familiar with. So companies like Google or just like groups of developers around the world, they kind of decided, let's make some graphical standards, some standards of designs that people are then going to reuse. So one of the very well-known design libraries is Material UI. And Material UI, it's very important. It's not something specifically only for React, okay? So if I write Material Design, so this would be the official page of Material Design. This is not like a library or anything. This is just like, let's say, a bit of philosophy on how user interfaces should look like, right? So what would be the right sizes for text? How many buttons can you put next to each other? How far and close should things be next to each of them? Maybe some icons, how they should look like. And the thing is, like, this would be the elements that you see in already so many so many web pages around the world and so many apps. So this one comes from Google, and it's probably not surprising that if you let's take a look at some layouts. This is pretty much like this element is what you usually see in Google Apps, right? Everywhere. Like also this web page is done using Material Design. I don't know. I think Wizz Air web page, for example, it's also using the same. The internet is a bit slow, but it's also using the same kind of components, but with different colors and so on. So one way to adopt, for example, Material Design in your project is to kind of learn all this theory and then try to apply that theory into CSS. And then from CSS, like, you make all these components, and then your web page looks in a Material UI design. So that's a long way. The short way is that you use a library for that. So the library is called Material UI React. So this is the main page of it. And to install this library, it's just this one line right here. npm install Material UI core. This will install all the graphical components, all the styling, and then you can start using the components from here. So if you go here and get started, it's a very easy interface and library. And the very first thing that easy thing to try is, for example, a button, right? So normally in HTML, we've seen, I don't know, like even this example right here that we're working on. When you do button, right, and when you write button, it looks quite simple and ugly. And if you want this button to look nice, then you have to start doing some CSS, putting some margins, putting some shadows, quite a lot of work. But what you can do, you import, this is how you take the look at the code. You just import button from this UI library. And then wherever you're going to use a button with some properties that are given to you, you're able to have the button already with all this fancy animations, all the margins, all this, rounded corners, and you're able to have, you can have a disabled version of it and so on. It's like Bootstrap for HTML. Yes, it's absolutely right. It's like Bootstrap for HTML. There is also Bootstrap for React. So if you prefer Bootstrap React, that is also an option. You also have the components here. Let's take a look at the button. So if they have an example, you have to import it somehow. But the idea here is that if you take a look, if you're using the Bootstrap library, if you're going to use a button, like this is how they give you. They give variant like primary, success, whatever. In Material UI, they give you variant, contained, and so on. So this is how they decided to define those properties. in the documentation here, they always give you all the main examples that you need. Like if you want your button, for example, to have this kind of edges, then you just copy paste one of this. You want an icon button, you want them of different sizes. This is also interesting. So instead of you finding like pixel sizes for your buttons, you already can have some pre-made sizes, small, medium, large. Yeah, so this is how you import it and how you use components. And what I showed here in the example, and without adding any, with pretty much the same amount of lines of code, I made our fruit list into this pretty much. So what you see here, I do have the code for it, and you have it on GitHub. I'm not going to type it now line by line, but just really fast. Give me a second. Right here, this is the example that you have on GitHub. Not this one. Sorry, this one. Sorry, let me open that folder. GitHub. There we go. We're not going to save this. So here in app.js. So this is how you import those components. You can import them in a large object together. So what I imported here, I imported text field, button, and grid. So before before I show you the example, so the buttons, I already explained you pretty much how the buttons look like and what they do. A grid, this is a very nice way if you don't want to go much into CSS, into arranging things on a page. For example, if you have a page and you know that you want 2 things or 3 things to fit by width, this is one way to use grids. Bootstrap has its own theory of how grids should work. So yeah, definitely give it a try. The other thing that I'm importing is, for example, a text field. So instead of those boring text fields like this ones, instead of the very simple input text fields, here, this is how you'd import one. They already give you 3 variants of it. Yeah, it's called a text field, and you have different, how do you call it? Yeah, different variant field are outlined. And then they give you a lot of other things that you can do with it. Like, for example, you can show the error around the text field. So if you want to do that on your own with CSS, yes, it's possible, but it definitely takes much more time. And you're pretty much reinventing the wheel, because you go on any Google web page or any modern page, you will see components which already look similar. Yeah, so what I did here, I imported text field, button, and grids. And what I do here, it's exactly the same things with add fruit, remove fruit. It's the same array, nothing different. But instead of using basic HTML components, I'm using the components from Material UI. I'm going to do npm start on this one meanwhile. And while this is starting, what's happening here, you'll definitely have to try this on your own. But what I have here, I have a grid, and this would be the grid elements. And I say that I want to have 3 things, 3 things in a line, of the same width, and they have to somehow fit. So that's kind of the idea of a grid here. And in each of them, I have a text field. So the first one is a text field for the fruit name, the one for the fruit color, and then here I have the button. And it's a button with a capitalized letter, which means it's the one styled in Material UI. And our fruit component right here, here I'm using something called a badge. You're about to see what that badge is. Yeah, again, the material button. And paper is pretty much a surface. It's a surface with a bit of a shadow, which gives you the idea of this 3D surface. So this is how this example looks like. I guess we can agree it looks a bit nicer. It uses absolutely the same number of lines of code. I didn't have to style barely anything here. Yeah, the functionality is still the same one. It remains here. I can name things. And yeah, you can see how, for example, the label goes up here nicely. the button changes its shadow and so on. And I did not have to write a line of CSS. Any question on what is Material UI and what the hell I'm doing here? Anyone? Anyone considering to use Material UI in your group project, for example? +++. Nice. Cool. For sure. Yeah. Also, if, for example, if you really like to style things yourself very much, you don't have to worry, because all of these elements, they also give you the opportunity to modify the CSS yourself. So in the example of a button, just because that's an easy one, here, this is how to use the standard options. But if I go just a bit below, right here, customized buttons, there you go. So with customized buttons, they show you, you just have to write some extra lines. But the idea is that you can modify the CSS of each of the buttons. Yeah, question? Oh, you just unmuted yourself. Okay. All right. So that's a really cool way to work with it. Also, there's something called themes. Yeah, something to look on your own time. So the idea of themes is that here you can see in all the examples, you always have 2, 3. You have like 2, 3 colors, primary and secondary. This is something to do with the whole philosophy of material design. So you can actually decide what those 2 colors you want them to be in your case. So yeah, the more you're going to play around with it, the clearer it will get. I can tell you it's much easier than using CSS. And it's really good when you just need an app that you have to build and you have to get it up and running as soon as possible. When you have designers, professional web designers, and you have a team where you can afford to, to build custom, nicely looking components, that is really cool. But most of the times, that is only once your project is really solid and you really have the budget for it and so on. So as a full stack developer, it's really helpful that there is such libraries available. Yeah, so I showed you the example. I guess that looks pretty cool. Yeah, this is, for example, some of the, let's say these are examples that you can download from the web. And a lot of times, even in our company, we start some projects by pretty much using a template from somewhere online. So these are typical admin templates. And yeah, in order to find them, just look for admin template, Material UI, free. Let's say free, right? And yeah, as you can see, I've already been on a lot of these links already. And yeah, let's say this dashboard, for example, if you like it, you take a look at it and yeah, this is an actual demo of it. And if I go back, I take a look at the source code, and this is the React app. You can download it, and just make sure that if you're using this for your own use, usually it's not a problem. But if you want to make money out of this, you have to be very careful whether there's a license. So here I don't see any license. I don't know. Usually you have to look for something called MIT license. But the thing is, yeah, be careful about reusing code from out there. Yeah, for example, this is a login page that you can also reuse, and it's in React, whatever, like a blog template. So for your final project, it's also good if you reuse one of these things, but only import like simple components, right? Like these things are fine, assign in, as long as you, like if you copy code, make sure you take full control of it. Don't just mindlessly copy paste stuff. So because you really have to understand what you're building there. Yeah, so that's pretty much it about this. Material UI, what's next? Yeah, so you also obviously find the package on NPM. You already seen where you find the documentation. Yeah, I've shown you this already. And I've shown you this. And actually, this is pretty much all the material that we had for today. Yeah, let's get to questions, and we can also go a bit general if you also have questions more into if you want to use this in your project, if you have some doubts or anything like that. So anyone? Was it all clear? Should I go back to some of the slides? Well, I shall assume then everything is very clear, right? Cool. Yeah, all right. Okay, then what I can tell you, yeah, good luck with trying all these things out. There is no more like assignments or anything like that, because now the idea is that you will try to use this in your group project. I'm really looking forward to seeing what you guys are building. For the people who we hadn't had the meeting yet, let's try have that. So just write to me on Slack, and we're gonna set up like a 15-minute meeting or something to discuss about your idea. Also, if you feel at some point that you're not managing with defining tasks or dividing tasks or so on, let us know, like me or my colleague Ettore will try to help you with the project management if it's necessary. But I've noticed most of the teams are really self-sufficient, more or less. So that would be it about the projects. I wish you luck, and I'm going to be here for another 2 minutes in case anyone has questions. Otherwise, you can leave and start your evening. Okay.
What's the plan for next week?
So for next week, we're going to learn more React. We're going to learn how to deploy your React app, and we're going to learn some more tricks. But in the meanwhile, you guys just spend the time on working on the project. So I think that's already enough time from your own. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. All right. So questions, or have a nice evening, I guess. Okay. Bye. Cheers.
Ivan, sorry, can I ask one more question about React?
Yes.
There is possible to find any additional sources in order to get more experience, more knowledge about React in general, I mean.
Yeah, so as usual, I'm going to start with that YouTube channel that I told you about, Fireship. So fireship.io, and you go here and let's stop this. So we're going to search for React. They have good examples for starters, right?
Yeah.
But honestly, the best experience you're going to get will be really just by trying out things. So for example, if you go into the material UI React, here, what is actually a good thing to try out while you work on the project? You say, okay, I want to learn how to work with checkboxes, right? And you open the example of these checkboxes, and you take a look at how they're controlling the checkbox.
Yeah.
There you go. And then you move on. Then you try something a bit more complicated. These are drawers, right? Something on the left, on the right. What we're going to learn next time is going to be how to do navigation, how to go from a page to page. But then the rest is really practice. I don't have really a good source. It's a lot of them. So.
But what do you think about official documentation?
Is there one?
Yeah, but I'm not sure it's for starters, you know.
Okay, so they do have, I don't think I've ever really hanged around here. It's not bad.
It's like step by step, but I'm not sure if it will be good for now.
Yeah, I mean, for example, here they do show you about how to use state. Also, this actually, it's a bit outdated because in the newest version of React, people don't use much of the class objects anymore. No, I think this would be only if you're a more of an advanced user and then you have to optimize something, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, videos, a lot of videos out there.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. All right, I think that was it with the questions. Yes, I guess. All right, then I wish everyone else a nice evening, and we'll talk to you next week. Bye.